The galaxy buzzed with whispers, a chorus of disbelief and skepticism echoing across planets and starways. The Council of Nine, the most powerful assembly in known space, convened once every 300 cycles, usually to squabble over trade rights or immediate territory disputes. But this time, the agenda was as strange as it was urgent: the human armaments mystery. Rumors of humanity's baffling insistence on clinging to obsolete weaponry had rippled through the cosmos. Advanced species scoffed and dismissed the matter as mere eccentricity, but others sensed something more dangerous, something cunning and deeply hidden behind Earth's unassuming facade. It was whispered that humans, notorious for their unpredictable cleverness, had a reason. For the Council, understanding this anomaly was no longer optional. To probe this enigma, they chose investigator Zelbrak, a seasoned Exevran with centuries of experience. He had a keen mind, tentacle-like limbs that moved faster than most beings could blink, and a deep-seated mistrust of humans, which made him ideal for the mission. At the heart of the matter was Captain Alan Reeves, an ex-military officer now working as a security consultant for the Galactic Alliance. He had reluctantly agreed to showcase Earth's methods after months of pressure and diplomatic wrangling, though he suspected it would involve far more than a simple presentation. Reeves had been summoned to try an X5, an arid council world dotted with gleaming towers of steel and glass. As he disembarked from his rusted, mismatched starship, a relic itself compared to the sleek crafts parked nearby, he found himself face to face with investigator Zelbrak and his delegation. Captain Reeves, Zelbrak began, his voice a slurry of clicks and resonant echoes. "You will demonstrate your world's primitive weaponry. The Council must understand why you refuse to advance." Reeves suppressed a sigh. "It's not that we refuse," he muttered. "We just use what works." Zelbrak's eyes narrowed to thin slits, shimmering with skepticism. "What works? We shall see." The delegation led him through expansive corridors, each surface polished to mirror-like perfection. Reeves noted the overwhelming display of technology: hovering archives, sentient guide bots that reacted to thoughts, and instant data uplinks wired into the architecture itself. The more he saw, the more he sensed their disbelief in anything outdated being remotely effective. He was taken to a massive training arena, its walls shielded to withstand blasts that could shatter moons. Standing within were rows of council officials, observing from tiered seats, their expressions ranging from bemused curiosity to open derision. A panel of alien tacticians, diplomatic envoys from over a dozen species, hovered just above the arena floor, and Zelbrak took his place among them. Reeves cleared his throat and adjusted the strap of his canvas duffel bag. "Well, I guess there's no better place to start than with a demonstration." From the bag, he pulled out what the assembled spectators considered laughably ancient: a revolver. Metal gleamed dully under artificial light. The weapon was archaic even by human standards, but Reeves wore a small, secret smile as he turned it over in his hand. Zelbrak's voice oozed with disdain. "This is your demonstration, an outdated mechanical projectile weapon." But Reeves nodded. "It's not just about what it does. It's about how we use it." The first test was straightforward. A target was positioned at the far end of the arena, shielded by a thick wall of plasma. Reeves took careful aim and fired. The bang reverberated through the chamber, startling the alien audience, unused to such sharp acoustics. The bullet struck its mark, and moments later, a hum from the arena's monitoring systems indicated the wall had been compromised. "Impossible," exclaimed Arloix, a thick-skinned Grinchen tactician known for his gruff demeanor. "Our shielding technology absorbs energy-based assaults. It adapts in nanoseconds." Reeves holstered the revolver. "Exactly. Energy weapons rely on predictable patterns, frequencies. But simple kinetics? There's nothing to absorb." Murmurs rose from the council. An unspoken challenge burned in the air, and soon it turned into a series of increasingly complex tests. Over the course of days, Reeves showcased a variety of human weaponry: crossbows, slug throwers, even tools like EMP grenades with seemingly limited functions. The aliens set traps, created unpredictable simulations, and deployed countless scenarios. Time after time, Reeves countered with unorthodox tactics, exploiting weaknesses their sophisticated algorithms struggled to predict. His tactics combined brute force simplicity with staggering creativity. It was not brute strength but ingenuity that held their attention and growing respect. One day, after a particularly complex trial involving maze-like holofields and drones, Reeves sat down in the council's observation chamber, his exhaustion plain. Zelbrak approached, his tendrils bristling with tension. Why? Why do you persist with weapons your species has long since surpassed? You have quantum disruptors, phased energy beams, why revert? Reeves leaned back, the faintest grin creasing his lips. Because they think they know us, he said quietly, his voice laced with something between amusement and weariness. And knowing is dangerous. The council's deliberations continued, now laced with grudging admiration. But for Reeves, the most perilous leg of his journey was only beginning. A splinter group of paranoid conspirators among the council feared that humanity was concealing a devastating secret behind these weapons, one that threatened their own dominance. They decided to act, plotting to force Reeves' hand and expose any hidden truths through drastic measures. One moonless night, as Reeves studied maps and reports in his quarters, he heard a soft, metallic chime, a signal from his embedded AI assistant, a low-cost gadget he affectionately called Bert. The voice that followed was far more ominous. "Captain Reeves, you are in grave danger." Reeves knew the risks of this mission, but he never expected that an exploration of outdated weaponry would spiral into a web of intrigue, betrayals, and a desperate fight for survival in the heart of the Council's power. The dim glow of the surveillance monitors cast long shadows in Reeves' quarters as Bert, his AI assistant, continued in its calm, synthesized voice. Multiple energy signatures detected converging on your position. Probability of hostile intent 73%. Reeves nodded grimly. He had expected some resistance to his mission. Too many council factions saw Earth's resourcefulness as either a curiosity to be studied or a threat to be eliminated. Paranoia was a universal constant, it seemed. Standing up, he slipped on his tactical vest, a lightweight blend of earth-made alloys, and considered his options. Bert chimed in again. Incoming communication from Council Operative Keta. Reeves raised an eyebrow. Keta, a Cerivian and one of the few sympathetic voices within the Council, was known for her shrewdness. He tapped a button, and her holographic form materialized, appearing translucent and slightly flickering. Reeves, Keta hissed urgently. "You have to leave immediately. Zelbrak's political rivals believe you're hiding a secret weapon and plan to extract it by any means." "What a warm reception," Reeves said dryly, though his eyes hardened. "Do they have a preferred extraction method? I'd love to know what they think I'm hiding." Keta's gaze was grave. "They've dispatched hunter droids. Non-lethal containment is unlikely." The words struck with cold finality. Hunter droids were designed to adapt and overwhelm targets using any available means, brutal machines honed by millennia of warfare across the stars. Reeves felt a flicker of unease. He couldn't count on fancy energy shields or quantum disruption fields, just his outdated equipment and his wits. "Got it," Reeves said. "I'll make a break for it. You owe me a drink if I survive." "No drinks," Keta said, her voice softening slightly. "Just don't get killed." The connection severed. Bert's scanners revealed incoming pings, 6 hunter droids, closing fast. Reeves grabbed a few more items from his duffel: a tactical flashlight, EMP grenades, and one of humanity's oldest tricks, smoke bombs. He didn't have much time, but he knew better than to engage the machines head-on. The first encounter came in a narrow corridor of steel and glass. A metallic hiss announced the arrival of the droids, their sleek forms shimmering with refracted light. Each stood nearly 7 feet tall, with bladed appendages and ocular nodes that rotated with mechanical precision. They formed a line, blocking Reeves' escape. Captain Alan Reeves of Earth 1 droned, its synthetic voice devoid of emotion. "Submit." Instead of complying, Reeves activated a smoke bomb. In a heartbeat, the corridor filled with dense, choking plumes. Smoke was primitive, but so were eyes, even mechanical ones. The hunter droid's optical sensors strained to adapt, shifting through infrared and magnetic spectrums. Reeves used their momentary confusion to spring into action, darting behind cover as their bladed limbs sliced through empty air. From another pouch, he pulled out a flashbang, a classic from Earth's arsenal. He tossed it with pinpoint accuracy. The device erupted with blinding light and a deafening bang, overwhelming even the sophisticated sensors of the hunter droids. Stumbling, their response protocols faltered, and Reeves sprinted forward, using the opportunity to reach a maintenance tunnel. Moments later, he emerged in a side chamber lined with outdated machinery, no doubt an oversight in the Council's sprawling complex. Bert spoke in his ear. Calculations indicate you have a 10-minute window before they adapt and track your thermal signature. Good to know, Reeves replied, catching his breath. But 10 minutes wasn't enough. He needed to shake them permanently. Searching the room, he found ancient coolant lines, still active despite being largely replaced by more advanced systems. A plan began to form, one that would take advantage of the droids' blind adherence to logic and efficiency. As the droids closed in on his position, Reeves worked quickly. He fashioned a makeshift bomb from an EMP device and coolant lines, rigging it to deliver a shockwave laced with sub-zero temperatures. It wouldn't destroy the droids, but it could force them into an extended reboot cycle, buying him valuable time. He set the trap and positioned himself just beyond the entry point, revolver at the ready. The hunter droids breached the chamber, moving in perfect formation. Reeves triggered the device. Cold vapor hissed and the temperature plummeted. Electrical pulses crackled, sending arcs across their metal frames. For a brief, glorious moment, they froze locked in place. Without hesitation, Reeves fired precise shots into their exposed joints. Simple projectiles embedded themselves deep, causing mechanical locks to seize and reinforcing his makeshift immobilization. The effect was temporary, but it was enough. Reeves slipped through another service corridor, one step closer to escape. Zelbrak was waiting for him at the end of the passage. "You survived," he remarked with a mix of surprise and grudging respect. "But you won't escape so easily." Reeves fixed him with a cold stare. "Why?" "Because I won't give up human secrets." Zelbrak's tendrils twitched. "Because your adaptability terrifies them. You wield simplicity like a blade against the overwhelming complexity we prize." The words hung in the air. Zelbrak motioned, and more council guards appeared, their weapons humming with energy. Reeves knew he couldn't win in a straight fight. But he wasn't done yet. "Bert," he whispered. "Create a distraction." From Reeves' vest, Bert activated a micro-projection. Holograms of Reeves multiplied, darting through corridors in every direction. The guards hesitated, confusion rippling through their ranks. Reeves used the chaos to slip away, but this time he wasn't fleeing aimlessly. He had one final move to play, and it would require getting back into the heart of the council chambers. With a combination of cunning, gadgets, and a knack for improvisation, Reeves made his way through layers of security, retracing steps to reach the council's primary meeting chamber. When he finally burst through the doors, gasping and bruised, all eyes turned to him, some with shock, others with calculated interest. He threw down the revolver, letting it clang loudly. "You want to know why humans still use these?" he shouted. "You think it's a secret weapon." The chamber fell silent. "It's not just about the weapon," Reeves continued, his voice fierce. "It's about how we think. The more sophisticated you make your tech, the more you assume everyone will play by the same rules. We don't, and that scares you." Zelbrak stepped forward, wary yet curious. "So it's not the weapons you hide, but the mindset." Reeves met his gaze. "Exactly. In a galaxy of rules and protocols, humanity is the unpredictable variable." For a long moment the council deliberated, each faction weighing his words. Some would remain skeptical, others would see humanity's adaptability as a resource. But for now, the tension in the air relaxed, if only slightly. The council chambers buzzed with tension as Captain Alan Reeves stood at the center, his revolver still resting on the polished floor. The echoes of his words lingered in the air, hanging like a challenge and a promise. He could see the divided reactions. Some counselors viewed him with newfound respect, others with suspicion. Investigator Zelbrak's expression was unreadable, his tendrils twitching ever so slightly. After a pause, Zelbrak's voice cut through the silence. "So, Captain Reeves, you claim that unpredictability is humanity's greatest weapon?" Reeves nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's more than that. It's about adaptability and ingenuity, qualities that no amount of technology can entirely replace. You've seen it yourselves. We don't need to rely on the newest energy blasters or quantum disruptors to be effective. At the back of the chamber, Counselor Reska, a wiry, silver-skinned flinchin known for her unyielding adherence to logic, snorted dismissively. Words and demonstrations do not prove that primitive tools offer true advantages. This is all theater. Reeves suppressed a sigh. He had expected this. Then let's put it to the test, he said, his voice strong despite the fatigue. An open challenge, under your terms, using human methods against your finest technology. Murmurs swept through the chamber. The idea was bold, borderline reckless, but it held an undeniable appeal. Pride and skepticism pushed the council to agree. Within moments, a new challenge was devised. Reeves would be placed in a simulated battlefield against a specially trained strike force equipped with the latest galactic tech. His task? Survive and achieve an objective using nothing but Earth's so-called outdated weapons. Preparations began immediately. Reeves was granted a brief respite, enough to rest and plan. In his quarters, he studied schematics of the arena where the trial would take place, a labyrinthine expanse dotted with traps, automated turrets, and shifting terrain. His opponents would be armed with cloaking devices, energy shields, and plasma weaponry. It was as close to a death sentence as one could arrange without formal execution. Any thoughts? Bert Reeves asked, staring at the blueprints. Bert's holographic form flickered. Survival odds are less than 8%, but I assume you prefer unconventional strategies. Of course, Reeves said with a tired smile. When have I done anything by the book? He reached into his bag, selecting his tools carefully: a few EMP grenades, his revolver with limited rounds, a knife, a handful of smoke bombs, and a few spare gadgets. He knew the odds, but this was not about fairness, it was about demonstrating why humanity's approach worked. Win or lose, he had to make it count. The arena was vast and ominously quiet, its metallic walls humming with latent energy. The strike force had already entered, unseen and silent, their cloaking devices masking every move. Reeves walked into the center, aware that every council member was watching, scrutinizing his every move. Trial commencing, announced a synthetic voice. The air crackled as the first shots were fired, plasma bolts that would have vaporized a lesser combatant. Reeves ducked, rolling to his left and tossing a smoke bomb. The arena filled with dense fog, momentarily obscuring vision, but Reeves knew it wouldn't last. His opponents would recalibrate within moments. He pressed his back to a pillar and listened. Faint sounds, a hum, a vibration gave away an approaching cloaked enemy. Reeves pulled out a device of his own, making a primitive motion detector that used sound waves to detect movement. It beeped softly. Timing his attack carefully, he fired his revolver at point-blank range. The bullet struck true, and sparks erupted as the cloaking field failed. The strike force operative crumpled, momentarily stunned. Reeves didn't wait. He moved swiftly, scavenging the operative's equipment, discarding some of it but keeping anything he could use, including a short-range disruptor. He knew his opponents would adapt quickly. This was only the beginning. Over the next grueling hours, Reeves relied on everything he had: decoys, improvised traps, his knife, and sheer cunning. He set up ambushes in narrow corridors, used EMP grenades to disable shields, and feigned weakness to draw enemies in. He was a ghost, striking quickly and vanishing into shadows. For every strike force operative he neutralized, new tactics emerged, forcing him to adapt. His revolver became a symbol, simple, effective, and lethal in the right hands. At one point, an automated turret locked onto him, its targeting systems far superior to anything Earth had produced. Reeves grinned, despite the danger. He retrieved an old mirror shard relic technology from the first lunar colonies and positioned it carefully. The turret fired, and its beams reflected, damaging its own sensors. Another problem solved with a primitive tool. Exhaustion clawed at him, but Reeves pressed on. He was bleeding from a deep gash on his arm, and every muscle screamed in protest. Yet he could feel it. The strike force was weakening, their confidence shaken. They had underestimated him, and now they paid the price for their rigid reliance on advanced systems. In a final confrontation, Reeves faced 3 remaining operatives. They coordinated seamlessly, flanking him with synchronized precision. Reeves had only 1 round left. He took a deep breath and drew his revolver. As they charged, he fired, aiming not at them but at an overhead power relay. Sparks exploded, and energy surged through the room, disrupting shields and cloaking fields. In the chaos, Reeves lunged forward with his knife, disabling the first operative and using their fallen body as cover. Moments later, it was over. Reeves stood, panting and battered, surrounded by unconscious foes. The trial had ended. Silence greeted him in the council chambers. Some members stared with wide eyes, others whispered in disbelief. Zelbrak approached, his gaze unreadable. "You proved your point, Captain Reeves. Your methods are effective." "Effective isn't always elegant," Reeves said, his voice hoarse. "But it works." Counselor Reska, still skeptical, interjected. "But at what cost? Such tactics are reckless. They rely on desperation." Reeves turned to face her. "You call it desperation. I call it determination. When the odds are against us, we find ways to win because we have to." Zelbrak stepped forward, his tone contemplative. Perhaps there is wisdom in that. In the days that followed, the council debated the implications of what they had witnessed. Some still doubted humanity's worthiness, others saw a potential ally, unpredictable but valuable. Reeves spent that time recovering, reflecting on what the trial had meant not just for him, but for humanity's place in the galaxy. When the final decision came, it was a compromise. Humanity would not be fully embraced, nor entirely dismissed. The Council would maintain careful watch, but acknowledge that outdated weapons and their wielders held more power than appearances suggested. As Reeves prepared to leave Tryon X5, he stood once more with Zelbrak. The Exvron inclined his head slightly, a gesture of respect. "You've given us much to consider, Captain Reeves, but know this unpredictability cuts both ways." Reeves grinned, his hand resting on the revolver's worn grip. "I wouldn't have it any other way." With that, he boarded his ship, leaving behind a galaxy that now knew what humanity's outdated weapons truly meant: symbols of adaptability, determination, and the indomitable spirit of a people who refused to be underestimated. And so Captain Alan Reeves journeyed on, carrying humanity's strange legacy forward in unbreakable resolve, and a reminder that even the simplest tools could change the fate of worlds.